As the country braces for the United States' 30% tariff hikes on the country's exports, the Government of National Unity's biggest partners, ANC and the Democratic Alliance, are blaming each other. The ANC is accusing the DA of being anti-transformation with its call for BEE to be scrapped because they say the policy has failed. The ANC's NEC, on the other hand, holding a meeting over the weekend which resolved to have discussions with other political parties that are outside of the GNU, and the view here is to expand the GNU. Now, let's get some perspective, particularly on the renewed tensions within the GNU, but at the same time, the US tariffs that have kicked in. Joining us for this conversation is ANC NEC member, who's also part of the subcommittee on economic transformation, Mzwandile Masina. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for your time. Can we start with the tariffs that have kicked in today, the 7th of August? The ANC's understanding of these tariffs and the impact they are going to have, particularly on South African companies. Have you formulated a perspective on what this means?
Yes, fortunately, one amongst the presentations that were made and discussed extensively was around the issues of the economy. And the issue of the tariffs ranked very high, and the ANC was able to deliberate and come up with mechanisms in which we can ensure that we can support companies that will be affected by tariffs. Some of the measures, we've already directed government to implement some measures, and I'm sure you've followed that there has been some pronouncement about what the ANC-led GNU is going to do to support those that will be affected. I must say that there are quite a number of companies that have benefited in doing business with the US. US is one of the biggest trading partners, so it's not something ideal, as you said, as you hear that we've emphasized that our preference is to continue to negotiate with them, because these tariffs are going to impact on us negatively in terms of the trade relations. So we have not given up. The president has given a call, and we continue to send our negotiators to negotiate, because we believe that this was unprecedented and no one could have imagined what happened. So I'm confident that with the measures that are put in place, we could give some support to the companies that are affected.
Talking exactly about that, the support to the companies, is there money to cushion these companies, particularly when the time comes that they fall on hard times and they possibly about to fold? Will there be monies to try and bail them out?
Look, I think government is looking at different, support package, and I will assume that finance, insurance, and things like those will rank amongst the key that we will have to look at to ensure that there is general support to the companies. You will know that there's about 600 companies from the US that are here doing ranging from a number of these companies. There's about 22 of our companies that are doing work in South Africa. There's almost 134,000 jobs that are going to be affected through these companies that are from the US here, and so on and so on. So it will be important that whatever we do, we look at trade measures, we look at support initiatives, either from employment and labor, to ensure that we can cushion even in those jobs, but also look at some export support that can be provided to the firms.
Do you not think, though, that the language of the Secretary General yesterday could possibly harden the attitude of this US administration? Because it's quite clear that South Africa has been in focus from videos that were played for the president about what is said in this country against white people. Do you believe that the comments of the Secretary General that if sanctions are going to be placed on leaders of the ANC, so be it, is that not going to exacerbate the situation?
Look, the threat have been issued by President Trump himself. The SG of the ANC was basically making this point that we cannot trade our sovereignty for threat to leadership. So, you know, if other leaders of the ANC were prepared to die for democracy, we should work hard and even harder ourselves to ensure that we can manage the situation. But if those things are placed upon the leadership of the ANC, we must take responsibility, because we have not gone out to badmouth the country, as some of the folks from the DA have done. We've done everything to ensure that we can protect, because we understand the impact of those to our nation. So therefore, I think that it was an elaboration that we have been threatened that the leadership will so if it comes, because we're protecting the sovereignty of the country and the integrity as well as the transformative policies, it's something that the ANC is prepared to accept.
Talking about the Democratic Alliance and other interested parties, if I were to call them that have gone to the United States. But let's keep the focus on the Democratic Alliance, because they are one of your partners in the GNU, the largest after you. What's the sentiment in the party? Take us into that meeting about discussions around the DA and their posture, because something must have led to the decision to say, let's bring back to the table, bringing parties that are outside the GNU to now be in focus.
Look, I think the 12 months that we've been working together, we've had a lot of problems, particularly with the DA and their conduct. You know, they don't know whether they are opposition or they're in government. They are always in court. And we had to review our decision, re-look into our decision, because, by the way, the ANC decision initially was we are taking this posture, which is not permanent, of the GNU, to work with all the 18 parties that are in parliament that have been democratically elected, provided that they can subscribe to some of the policy agenda that we want to drive, yeah, and we are principled enough. And then 10 of those parties came through, and then one subsequently pulled out UAT, and then we're left with 9. So with this kind of conduct, it was important that we firm up that we must reset this thing and ensure that, and I'm sure you will notice that there would have been some other smaller parties that came through and supported, showing that this is not about, because the issue of the budget was a very sensitive issue, you know, because if the budget was not passed, there were far-reaching implications. So yeah, we cannot risk as a leading party in the GNU, but this GNU is led by ourselves. So the DA will have to accept that we are resetting the button. We are bringing others who will be prepared to subscribe. What we will not accept, obviously, is conditions, because previously we were giving ridiculous conditions, which we could not accept, which is why other parties were not necessarily part of the GNU.
Can I quickly interrupt and ask about what the word reset will mean exactly, in a sentence? What will that look like in practical terms? Yes,
the leadership led by President Ramaphosa has been directed to open a negotiation with other parties in the GNU, I mean in Parliament, to participate in the GNU. So obviously parties will make their choice whether or not they want to join the GNU. And in our part, we are not expelling the DA, but we don't have a permanent relationship with them, because even ideologically we are two different parties, and it has been proven that we have to consolidate and ensure that this government remains stable.
Very quickly on the ideological part, I'm not going to skirt around the issue. The MK party and the EFF, the SACP, has been clear that it would be better to be irritated by the EFF than deal with the Democratic Alliance. What is the posture around those parties?
Look, South Africa is critical as a country, so we have spoken to those parties. We've spoken to EFF, we've spoken to MK, and MK is quite ridiculous, if you like, because you know they on one hand, they dispute the results. On the other hand, they're in parliament. So there is a lot of confusion that is taking place there. With the EFF, there has been engagements, and I hope that this time around, they will not put demand that are ridiculous that will make the ANC not to consider. So I hope that throughout this engagement, they will allow us to ensure that we are firm up in terms of the statement of intent and principles that have been set up for this GNU, which is not permanent.
Say what you will about the Democratic Alliance, there are people who will think that the minute they either leave of their own volition from the GNU or are pushed out, the country is not going to see the fight against corruption in what some people may view as a very, very focused approach. The Minister of Public Works today has laid criminal charges against the suspended IDT CEO, Tebogo Malaka. Does the ANC support that move?
Look, the minister must do his job, and the ANC has been very clear about those that are facing corruption. I'm not really having details with regard to that issue. I will follow up, but I'm certain that the ANC will not tolerate corruption. So where there's been allegations, actions must be taken, and we must follow the law as government. So I have no doubt about that. And I think it's extreme, though, to say that the ANC has not fought corruption where it has where there has been some issues, clearing issues. We have acted quite firmly.
Yeah.
If you look at the state capture and what is coming out there and the actions that have been taken, and the president gave us some feedback in terms of how much we've been able to recover from those. So I'm certain that it is not correct that the DA fights corruption more than the ANC.
Very quickly on this, as we end the conversation, if you watch the social media space, there seems to be, at least from some quarters, sympathy for Tebogo Malaka. There are those that are even pushing a hashtag, hands off Tebogo Malaka. Does the ANC believe that she deserves sympathy after what we all saw on video?
Look, I have come here to answer what we discussed in the National Executive Committee. It will be unfortunate for me to cast aspersion and talk about things that I am not aware. I'm not even on social media, so I don't know what is the discussion about. And that issue was not on the table for the National Executive Committee of the ANC, so I wouldn't want to involve myself in a discussion that I will not be able to explain.
Very well. Thank you very much for your time. Mzwandile Masina, ANC NEC member and a subcommittee member of the Economic Transformation in the African National Congress.